So one of the great debates out there is the differences between the revolver and the semi-automatic style of handgun. What I want to do in this video is I want to go through and talk about the pros and cons of each of these two different types of handguns, and hopefully by the end of the video you'll have a greater appreciation as to the strong points and the weak points of each. Now the reason why I'm using these two particular handguns, the SP101 by Ruger and the 6906 by Smith & Wesson, is that they kind of cover the same genre of firearms, such as they're both kind of geared towards concealed carry, and they both have features that are kind of representative of the overall genre between revolver and semi-automatic. Just before I kind of jump into the video, let me just show you that these are both unloaded. I usually don't safety check a whole lot on my channel just because I just don't feel like I need to. But in this particular video, I am going to be handling these firearms quite a bit, and so I just want to make sure that that you know that they are safety checked. If I can open that up, try not to fumble on camera here. Anyway, the other thing is that I do have a couple little munchkins running around my house, and so if you hear kids playing in the background or yelling or screaming, that's just how I roll here in the Doc Tech Dad house. Alright, so one of the things that you'll hear a lot of people saying when it comes to the revolver is that the revolver is antiquated, okay? That it is obsolete. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. And they'll even tell you that, well, the police agencies, the military, everybody has dropped the revolver style handgun. And so that just proves it right there. Well, most of this is out of sheer ignorance or out of their fanboy-ishness for for the semi-automatic. And I am one to say that I love both of these styles of handguns. Definitely. I mean, there's not one I would take over the other necessarily. There are in certain circumstances, I will in certain circumstances take one over the other. But for the most part, I appreciate both. And that's kind of what I want to do. I just want to show you guys the appreciation of each. So as I go through, I'm having a really hard time trying to figure out how to organize this video, so I'm just going to kind of do it /dash, seat of the pants, and hopefully we get through all the points that I want. Now down in the description box I'm going to list a kind of a pros and cons list of each, so that you guys can kind of browse through that as we talk, or read it later at your pleasure, however. Okay, so first off, let's talk about the revolver. Now, as I go through, I'm going to tell you a couple of the pros, and that'll obviously show you some of the cons of each, okay? The biggest pro, I think, in the revolver is the fact that it's a very simplistic operation, okay? This particular revolver, you have the option of double action trigger pull or single action trigger pull. There are no safeties. There is nothing to boggle with. You just pick up the gun and you pull the trigger, and that's it. In a semi-automatic, on the other hand, a lot of times you have safeties to deal with. In fact, this one won't even fire if the safety's engaged. Okay, it won't fire even if the safety's disengaged. It won't fire without the magazine in. This one actually has a magazine safety disconnect, which I hate. But that's how it is. Now now that the magazine's in, it can actually fire, okay? It can actually, but it will still not fire without the safety on. So that safety adds complexity to the operation of the handgun. The other thing that adds complexity to the semi-automatic handgun is you have this slide. And the slide has an action where it comes back, unloads the spent round casing, and then reloads a new round inside of the chamber. And it does that every time you pull the trigger. So the added complexity of that is if you impede the slide's ability to go into full recoil and back into action, then you will jam the pistol up. And so there's more complexity there, definitely. This one actually has a double action trigger pull. It also has a single action trigger pull as well. Okay, so these are very, very similar. That's why I chose to compare these two. So yeah, no one's going to argue that the semi-automatic definitely tends to be more complex in its operation. Okay. Now, one of the things that is also an advantage to the revolver is that it is more reliable. Okay, Some of the things that can go wrong with this semi-automatic, we just talked about that. The slide can be impeded in its operation and cause malfunction in the gun, and there's other things as well. But in the revolver, you have less moving pieces, and so less things that are going to go wrong. In the revolver, you have the cylinder that rotates and brings the new round into the firing position. Okay, and that means that you have less that will actually go wrong. Now, there are malfunctions you can have. In fact, you can have a spent casing drop underneath the extractor. You can have casings that'll swell or primers that'll pop out and actually can jam up the gun. And I've actually experienced those myself personally, and I've seen other people experience those types of malfunctions as well. So there are malfunctions that can plague the revolver, but they're much less likely to happen than the semi-automatic. The semi-automatic user might do what we call limp wristing, which is where they're not holding the gun very, very tightly as they fire, and that takes some of the momentum out of the slide and causes the slide to bind up. There's all kinds of different malfunctions that can happen. There's failure to feeds, failure to ejects, and failure to fires, various different things that can occur with a semi-automatic handgun that will not occur as much with the revolver. So the revolver is definitely more reliable, less likely to jam. Okay. The other thing the revolver has is it has the ability to rotate into a new cylinder or a new cartridge. So in this case, if you pulled the trigger back or pulled the trigger and the round inside that cylinder didn't go off, all you have to do is pull the trigger again and it'll rotate another fresh round into the firing position. Whereas in a semi-automatic, if you have a dud round, okay, if it goes click and doesn't go bang, you can always pull the trigger again. On this one you can. On this semi-automatic you can. Other semi-automatics you have to rack the slide again in order for it to do that. So this one has double strike capability, but what if it still doesn't go bang? You actually have to rack that slide again to get a fresh round into the chamber to try again. Okay, and so you don't have the same advantage as the revolver does with the semi-automatic in its double strike capability. It may have double strike capability, but it doesn't have the ability to fire onto a fresh round like a revolver does. The other thing that you can do with a revolver that you can't do with a semi-automatic is you can fire it from a concealed position. Now, the reason why I've chosen to kind of show you two different examples of concealed carry guns is because that's a role in which it's very, very important to know the capabilities of your firearms. Let's say that you're a female shooter and you have opted to go with a purse carry. You have your gun in your purse, okay? If you reach into your purse grip the handgun like you're ready to fire, you don't even have to draw that gun out of your purse. You can actually fire from a concealed position. You can actually fire through your purse, okay? And most likely the gun will not jam up and you can fire again because there's very little to snag up on a revolver. In this case we have a hammer that can snag up, but there are other revolvers that have enclosed hammers. So that even takes some of that out of the equation. So you do have the ability to fire this from like a sweatshirt pocket or from a purse and be able to continue to fire. Now, you can fire this from a purse or a pocket, but you're going to get one shot only. Because most likely, you're going to have this come back, and the slide come back and get bound up inside the pocket or inside the purse, and you're only going to get one shot at your target. Okay? So that's an advantage that's distinctly kind of used for concealed carry, but there's an advantage there on the revolver. Okay? Now, one of the things that may or may not be a huge pro or a huge con for you is the fact that the revolver retains its brass. Okay, so as you fire the cartridge, okay, fire the bullet out of the gun, the cartridge remains inside of the cylinder of the revolver until you eject it. Now on a semi-automatic, on the other hand, when you fire this ejection port, this slide comes back, the casing, the spent casing, is ejected out of the side and a new fresh round is placed into the chamber. Okay? You have brass that flies out of the side of your gun every time you pull that trigger. That is a disadvantage, okay? Because you might hit bystanders, you know, with that. If you're shooting on a line, you can pelt someone with brass. Also, if you are a reloader and you want to retain your brass, sometimes it's harder to find that brass amongst grass and other things, and so you can actually lose your brass easier. So, you know, like I said, I don't know how much of an advantage that is for you, but it is somewhat of an advantage that you retain your brass. Now, it's a disadvantage because you have to actually manually eject those rounds out. And so when we get into the pros of the semi-automatic, we'll come back to that a bit and talk a little bit about the advantages there. Okay, now let's talk about cartridge capability of each. Okay, now the revolvers in general, and when I say general, that's the key word there. In general, revolvers fire more powerful cartridges. Okay, now I know that there's going to be people out there that are going to say, wait a minute, what about the cartridges? What about the 10 millimeter? What about the 44 mag? You can fire that in a semi-automatic. Yes, you can, but it's it's not very likely. Okay, it's not very common. So let's talk about some of the standard cartridges that can be fired. Now this SP101 fires .357 Magnum. And .357 Magnum is a very, very, very capable round. It's probably one of the best man-stopping rounds out there. Just a fantastic cartridge and very powerful. On the other hand, you have the semi-automatics firing the 45 ACP, which is a fantastic cartridge as well. Now I know that you can get revolvers chambered in the 45 ACP. So you know, like I said, there's interplay. There's mismatch going on. Okay, what about the 44 mag? Okay, the 44 mag is a very, very, very powerful round. I know you can get semi-autos chambered in 44 mag, but they're not very common. But the 44 mag is probably one of the most powerful rounds on the planet. There's other ones that are more powerful, but hey, that's just crazy powerful. Okay, we're talking 1,000 foot-pounds from a 44 mag using using these rounds. So, okay, what about the 10 millimeter? 10 millimeter, fantastic round and very, very powerful. In fact, I know of a couple people that have taken deer with the 10 millimeter round. Okay, and so you do have a very, very powerful cartridge that can be utilized in the semi-automatics. But I think in general, the revolvers tend to fire the more capable, powerful rounds. Okay? So, you know, I'm sure I'll get some hate comments on that one, but it's just kind of how the cards lie, guys. In general, that is the key word, general. All right? Now, the other thing that I think that the revolver kind of rules the roost on is its hunting capabilities, okay? Revolvers tend to be more geared towards hunting, or they can be, okay? So let's roll in an example of that. How about the Smith & Wesson Model 29? This is a 44 Magnum. You can see that right there. Big old 44 mag, okay? This is a 44 Magnum. This is a hunting handgun. Okay, this is what I would consider this a hunting handgun. It's definitely not a concealed carry. Yeah, you could conceal it, but it's designed to hunt with. Okay, and so that's one thing that the revolver has an advantage over, is that they tend to fire more powerful rounds and they tend to be more apt for hunting. Now, I know that there are people that hunt with semi-automatics, and that's fine, but I think in general, the revolver kind of rules the roost on the hunting side of things, okay? Now, something that's very subjective and less of a pro-con type thing, as just more of a personal preference thing, is the fact that revolvers are beautiful, okay? I don't own a lot of beautiful revolvers. I wouldn't consider the Ruger SP101 as the most beautiful revolver out there. I think it's a very attractive revolver, but I don't think it's the most beautiful. Okay, I think that the Model 29 Smith & Wesson is a beautiful revolver. And I think that there is just some classic looks to the revolver that you don't find with a semi-automatic, okay? Now, on the flip side of that, I do believe that the semi-automatics are more tactically attractive. Okay, let's roll in a tactically attractive firearm here. Uh-oh, I've got kids coming down the stairs, but a more tactically attractive firearm. Can you think of one that's more tactically attractive than the XDM 45? I think it's a fantastic looking firearm, and very, very sleek looking. I think that it's amazing. But I think the classic looks go towards the revolver. All right, so let's talk autos. Okay, let's talk about the pros of the semi-automatic. Now, in this case, I'm using the Smith & Wesson 6906, okay? The reason why that is because it has a safety, and it has double action trigger pull, and, you know, things like that kind of represent the overall general genre of the semi-automatic. The biggest advantage of the semi-auto, okay, and this is where I think the race is kind of won and lost with a lot of people, is its capacity. All right, this particular magazine contains 12, can contain 12 cartridges. Okay, you can see the number 12 right there. This has the ability to contain 12 plus 1. Okay, so you have 12 cartridges in the mag, and then one in the chamber. So for a total of 13 rounds. Whereas this SP101, you have 5 shots. Okay, so you have 5 shots available to you at any given point. Now the thing is you can practice with a revolver and get really good at reloading, but you're never going to be as fast as someone that practices and gets really good at reloading a semi-automatic. Okay, the options out there for a revolver is you have like this HKS speed loader. Okay, that's for 357 or 38 special, and you could get like a Bianchi speed strip. Okay, and that's another way that you can reload a revolver. But on a semi-automatic, you just have to have another magazine, or 2, or 3, or 4, okay? And you just slap those in, and you drop the slide, and you're good to go. So there is nobody that can really debate that it's faster to reload a revolver. Now I know there's guys out there that are very, very fast at reloading a revolver, but not anywhere as fast as a semi-automatic. And because this is containing 13 plus 1, in fact this one's a 15 plus 1, okay, this magazine here is a 15 plus 1 capacity, so you have to reload half as often as that of the revolver. So there's really very little that can be said, you know, that can be said against the semi-automatic in this case. So, I mean, let me back up just a little bit before we go on to the next little bit. Like I said, this is where the revolver and the semi-automatic debate is won and lost with a lot of people, is its capacity or its ability to reload. But I think that we need to really give it a fair shake. You need to look a little bit further beyond capacity, okay? Because there are obvious advantages to the revolver that people overlook, and in many cases, you'll never use that many rounds in a self-defense situation. Now, don't get pigeonholed into statistics, because statistics can be you can be blindsided by statistics. They say, well, 80% of all shootings occur with one or two bullets and no more. Well, that's great. But what if you're in the 20%, okay? What if you're in a situation where you're pinned down and people are trying to kill you, and you have what you have in your gun and one reload, and that's it? You might find yourself into some hot soup. And now, is that a very common situation? No. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be caught in that situation, okay? But don't get pigeonholed on the capacity debate only, because there are so many advantages to the revolver, of which we've talked about, that you need to broaden your scope a little bit. Okay? All right, now let's talk about cleaning. All right? Now, some people are going to argue a little bit with this, and that's fine. I feel that it's harder to clean a revolver than it is to clean a semi-automatic. You have 6 barrels in this particular one to clean. You have the 5 chambers in the cylinder. You have the 5 chambers in the cylinder, and I got kids up there, and 1 barrel to clean. Okay, where on this one you have 1 barrel and the frame and the slide, which I find to be easier to clean. I'm faster cleaning a semi-automatic than I am cleaning the revolver, mostly because the cylinders are the hardest part to clean. And so you have a bunch to clean, whereas in this one you only have the one. So, okay, I think that pretty much kind of, concludes what I have to say between the two. Now, if I've missed something, please, I want this to be a discussion. I want this to be kind of an open forum. So feel free to post a video response to this video telling me why you like one or the other and kind of your list of pros and cons. If I miss something, go ahead and throw it down in the comments. That way, if people want to come back to this video and learn a little bit more between the two, if you're trying to decide on what to buy, a revolver or a semi-automatic for your first handgun, I kind of want this to be a resource video to them. So. Alright guys, so feel free to leave a comment or post a video response, kind of spread a little bit of wealth around, with wealth of knowledge. And thank you for watching. Please feel free to rate, comment, subscribe, as well as favorite this video if you'd like. It does help out the video and it helps out the channel. So appreciate you guys all for watching, and we will talk to you guys later. See ya.